The Bitcoin Act of 2025 says that we want to buy 1 million Bitcoin for America over the next 5 years. But what are the actual details, right? And why are not many people talking about this? Like, why does it seem like everyone's so bearish when one of the biggest Bitcoin purchase plays could be right underneath our nose, right? If America, one of the largest nations, largest governments in the world, starts buying Bitcoin, I mean, what does that mean for the asset class? What does that mean for crypto? What does that mean for your altcoins? Let's talk about it in this video. Let's break down the Bitcoin 2025. Let's break down how we're going to acquire the Bitcoin, and can this actually start in 2025? So the first thing you need to know is the Bitcoin Act of 2025 was basically proposed by like two people, Senator Loomis and Congressman Belch, something. I think that's somewhere how you say it. The congressman for Alaska. And these two people are really responsible for getting this bill started. Senator Loomis was also a big proponent of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. I think she was one of the big ones that pushed it. But now we have these two people pushing this Bitcoin Act of 2025, which is basically like the updated version of the Bitcoin Act of 2024. What the bill says is over 5 years, starting whenever the bill is signed, America would buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year for 5 years and hold it for 20 years. Now, this is a very long-term wealth play for America in an act to reduce their debt, kind of bolster the balance sheet and give them an asset that can give them some returns larger than S&P, larger than Treasury, larger than gold. The way that America would go about buying this Bitcoin is three ways, basically. The first way is the first way is the strategic seizing of Bitcoin, right? So America's already seized some Bitcoin from bad actors, and we already have about 200,000 Bitcoin, or 1/5 of the total 1 million Bitcoin that we would like to have. So we're already off to a great start. But the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve is made up of seized Bitcoin. So one way that America can get Bitcoin is by seizing the digital assets. The second way that they can get Bitcoin is by federal funds remittances. So what happens with the Fed is the Fed's kind of like a company, right? Or like governments. Like at the end of the year, we have a surplus, we have a deficit, depending on how the year goes. A lot of years, the Federal Reserve has a surplus. And what they do with that surplus is they just kind of put it in the savings account of the Treasury so that on years when they don't do as well, then they can kind of lean into the savings account and kind of make up the difference of the deficit, right? And so what is being proposed is that on those years when the federal government has a surplus, or the Federal Reserve has a surplus, which people are presuming would be 2025, 2026, and happening more sooner than later, maybe because of the tariffs, maybe because of changing government, I don't know. But they're proposing that we're gonna have a surplus. What they're saying is that we can use that surplus, some of it, instead of putting it all into the savings account, maybe we can start buying Bitcoin with it in a budget neutral way. So the money's already there, right? It's just not being spent. And so we can spend it on Bitcoin, adding it to the balance sheet. The third major way that we are considering buying Bitcoin for America is by reevaluating the gold supply in America, or the gold holdings in America. And so this is very interesting when I was learning about this, is that apparently all the gold that America has, I'm not really even sure where the gold is, but all the gold that America has is valued at $42 an ounce. $42 an ounce. If you told me I could buy gold at $42 an ounce, I would buy as much as I could today, right? It's absolutely absurd. Apparently, America has never reevaluated their gold price, and today's gold price is around $2,800, $2,900, $3,000 an ounce, somewhere in there. And so with that change, if America reevaluated their gold holdings and updated the dollar amount, people are proposing that we can make almost $1 trillion, around $700 to $800 billion, just in gold. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. And so what they're proposing is that we revalue the gold, get the real number on the books, and then we use some of that money and roll it into Bitcoin, some of that profit that America has made, and roll it into Bitcoin, and not be just not just have gold in the reserves, but have Bitcoin in the reserves as well. Now, if you're a savvy investor like myself, you might be wondering, well, why have we never done that? Why have we never brought the gold price up and revalued? I don't know. It sounds so dumb, but the reason, basically, I think, is that it would cause it would be inflationary. It would devalue the dollar a little bit more. It would just kind of disrupt the total global gold market. And so when they're thinking about using some of the gold, revaluing some of the gold to buy Bitcoin, I don't know if they're going to do all of it at once. I know that they have about 700 to 800 billion in that exchange between $42 to $3,000 an ounce. But my guess is that they probably won't do it all at once. Maybe they'll just do a little bit, buy a little Bitcoin, do a little bit, buy a little Bitcoin. But the third major way is reevaluating the gold that America holds. Now, what does this mean? Like, what would this mean for Bitcoin and crypto? Well, I think the big thing that it means is that if you have a major country, one of the top developed countries in the world, America, buying Bitcoin for its balance sheet, that's going to cause a lot of cascading effects in the positive world for crypto. I know right now is a very weird time. Tariffs, recession, uncertainty, what in the world's going on, right? I feel it too. But the thing about if America starts buying gold and adding it to if America starts buying Bitcoin and adding it to its balance sheet, is that a lot of other countries are probably going to follow. And when a lot of other countries start to follow, then Bitcoin's really going to hit that sovereign wealth fund that many people talk about. And if America is adding Bitcoin to its balance sheet, it really bolsters the asset as something that can be tamed, something not so risky, something not so scary. From that point, we can start to see pension funds. We can start to see hedge funds. We can start to see large nation states and investment firms all adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet in order to get a little piece of the wealth generation that it has. Now, what this is going to do is as big players like the United States government and other governments around the world start buying Bitcoin or trying to get their share of the Bitcoin pie while they can, it's really going to drop the volatility of this asset. You can think of it more as becoming like an S&P 500 for crypto, because that's kind of what happens. I mean, a lot of the people in the world, a lot of the countries in the world hold S&P or hold treasury bonds or hold gold, and we can see how the volatility of those has diminished over time. So when Bitcoin would be in the hands of everyone, especially these big players like the United States government or Michael Saylor or El Salvador, who are not selling their Bitcoin and are really promising not to sell, I mean, it really helps Bitcoin become a much more mature asset, which then allows people to get into crypto a little bit more. Also, if these big players are going to hold Bitcoin, well, for the next decade, that's going to be a great ride for Bitcoin. You could basically just hop on the Bitcoin train and get free money, free return on gains if the government promises that they're going to be buying Bitcoin for the next 5 years. So you could buy with them and kind of make the same trade as them. But over time, what's also going to happen is as Bitcoin becomes less volatile, becomes more mature because more bigger players are holding huge amounts, people are going to go to altcoins to get a little bit more return, a little bit more risk. And that is where the true wealth is going to come in for you and me. Now, Bitcoin, I think we all know, I mean, you could buy a Bitcoin today and still probably get a 10x out of it over the next decade or maybe the next cycle, where it gets up to 250,000, then 500,000, then a million, right? Over the next decade. It's definitely possible. But the big wealth cycle over cycle is going to be those altcoins. And if we have big players buying Bitcoin, somebody will always chase more risk in the altcoin market, giving us an advantage to make that trade as well. So all this sounds really good, right? We have Bitcoin coming into the government. We have Bitcoin coming into Federal Reserves and treasuries, really solidifying what Bitcoin's meant to be. This store of value, this non-inflationary asset, and it makes it seem like crypto is going to become the next digital payment form, which I think you and I believe. I think most crypto people really believe, and we see a path, but it just really takes much longer than everyone expects. How long is it actually going to be until America can start buying Bitcoin from these budget neutral strategy ways? Well, this is one spot where I think it gets a little shady and people might not be prepared for. But, we have people like the congressman and the senator, and, we even have a Bitcoin strategic reserve now. They're putting out all this great information. The problem is everyone forgets how long a bill takes to get through the government. And it can be much longer than anyone anticipates. So what kind of has to happen is a congressman or a senator kind of propose this, then it's going to get through the Senate, then it's got to get through the House, then it's got to get to the president's desk, and all this can take time. The big part, I think, is in the Senate and the House, where it can be discussed for months or even years on end without resolution, because everybody needs to see facts and they need to see reports, and they need to really understand the risk of what's going on here. Now, so what I would be prepared for is if this bill does not get signed in 2025, which again, the bill could take months or even years to get passed, but maybe in 2025, since I think the House and the Senate are majority Republican right now, they might be able to push it through further. But I would expect months, if not a year or two, for this bill to get signed. Now, what does that mean? Let's say this bill gets signed in 2025, over the summer, or even in August or September, something like that. It probably won't go into effect until the 1st of 2026. Okay, that's kind of like the best case scenario, is the 1st of 2026, we use budget neutral ways to start buying Bitcoin. The second scenario is maybe the bill takes a little bit longer to get passed. Maybe we, got to sort out the tariff stuff, and then the bill rolls into the office or rolls into the Senate or rolls into the House. Again, my government literature is not 100% perfect, but it rolls into there late 2025. They discuss it for quite a while, maybe 6 months, and mid 2026 it gets approved or moves to the president's office, which I think they have 10 days then to approve it or deny it. It seems like Donald Trump would approve it at that point, and we get this Bitcoin budget neutral purchase program. Well, I think what then would happen is if it got approved mid 2026, I don't think it just starts. I think what would happen is then it would wait till January 1, 2027 to then start. So I want to kind of spoil the parade a little bit. I think it's very good bullish news that we are having these discussions, but I think there's also a very big gap between what discussions we're having and where we need to be in order to actually make our first budget neutral purchase of Bitcoin. And this definitely is not to rain on anyone's parade. It's just provide a clear outcome of what could actually possibly happen. So maybe this cycle, America's not really buying budget neutral Bitcoin. Maybe it's in 2026, 2027 they start buying, and it leads us into the 2029 cycle. Now, I do see a scenario where things could go much quicker than expected because the whole Republican House is kind of like ready for this. The whole Republican side of the government's ready for this, and people are really ready for it. Like, the opportunity is now. Like, I think we understand that. And I think the Senator, Loomis, and Congressman proposing this really understand that as well, is that the time is now to capture the crypto market. That could also cause a catalyst to where 2025 they get the bill passed and they start the purchases in January 1 of 2026 in a budget neutral way. There's a lot of things to go into, and there's a lot of reasons why it could get halted. A lot of people could be standing in the way, or a lot of people might just not understand. I just want to set a clear expectation of maybe it doesn't happen as soon as we expect, and if it takes a little bit longer, I mean, well, that's kind of par for the course in crypto. Everything takes a little bit longer than expected. All in all, though, between you and me, I think that this is a very good thing. I think America could buy Bitcoin and it would I think it would perform well. I think Bitcoin is an obvious choice for a very good 12th sector of the S&P, a very good new asset class. And it's not like they're getting risky with Ethereum and all these other, or Cardano or anything else, right? They're just buying Bitcoin and holding it, which has been historically a very, very, very good thing. I think if America can buy this Bitcoin in a budget neutral way, a lot of people are going to be more on board. And it's basically just like reallocating money that we already have, which seems like a very good idea. It also seems like a very good way to pay off the debt. I think we should try to pay off a little bit of the debt. I think, at some point we got to pay off just a little bit of it, right? It's okay to have debt. Everyone has debt. I have student loans and stuff. But we don't need 34 or 36 trillion dollars in debt, right? An all-time high. Let's bring it down a little bit. I think the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve could be a very, very good strategic way to do that as quickly as possible. Besides just cutting some crazy spending in like the military or something like that. But I think you have to see this from a bullish standpoint. Even if you're not a crypto holder, even if you're an altcoin guy like me, maybe, I still like Bitcoin as well. But you have to see this in a bullish light, because if America really does start buying Bitcoin in a budget neutral way, pretty much every country out there in the world will have to revise and kind of decide if that's something that they want to do as well. This is going to drive a lot of money into crypto, a lot of money into Bitcoin, and a lot of money into altcoins, which is, where people like you and I position. And so that is going to be bullish for the market as well. It's going to bring a lot of adoption and a lot of growth to the area. With this growth, the sector will only get better over time. And I think we'll have better regulation and better just everything. So I think this is a net positive for crypto, a net positive for America. And I would really like to see this get through so America can start adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, right? I think it's a great plan. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Should America start adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet? Do you think it's positive or negative for crypto, or good or bad for the debt? I think it's positive for the debt. I think it's positive for crypto. I think it's positive for altcoins. I definitely would be positive for my portfolio. But I think, I enjoy crypto a lot, and I think, America's got to do something about that debt. Thanks for watching. If you're still in the 20% that make it to the end of the video, I really appreciate you. If you could drop a subscribe, drop a like, and down in the description, we have the Crypto 100X Blueprint. We talk about a lot of stuff like this. Also, you get 7 steps to 100X your portfolio this cycle in 2025. Go ahead and give it a follow. Give me a follow. Get the download. Do whatever. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.